Okay, suppose you are given the task to promote creative thinking in your district. How would you promote that?
You were a cricketer and you're very fond of cricket. You were also the captain of the cricket team in the school as well as college. You were a batsman as well as a bowler. Okay, good. Tell me what is the difference between a googly and a dusra?
If given a choice, out of rural industrial development and developing satellite cities around already developed urban area, and going for that cities or that area's industrial development, what will you choose?
That is one of your subject and anthropology often. You consider the about different set of different kind of houses. And what is the reason behind it? If you learn anything in India, all over India, you can pick up anything. Okay, this in this state the house is such kind of pattern. The reason is like that, stuff like that.
Are you fully vaccinated, Siddharth?
Yes.
Okay. So you can take off the mask for clarity of expression. The distance is safe. Siddharth, provide some interesting information about yourself, which is not covered in this DAF.
I come from Cochin in Kerala, and I like to play cricket. I like to watch movies, and I like to interact with a lot of people. In fact, I like movies because in Kerala we have a culture of discussing the different movies in the tea stalls, in the corners. So that is how I spend my free time. And presently, I'm in IPTAFs. I got into IPTAFs through the reserve list. Yes.
What kind of movies do you like?
Sir, in fact, I like all kinds of movies, though I like more commercial movies and parallel movies also, but then I like all kinds of movies.
Are you aware what are the criteria that we take into consideration when we decide which movie will represent India in the Oscars?
Sorry, sir, I'm not aware.
Do you know which is 2021's nomination to the Oscar?
No, sir. No, sir. I'll read about it.
How many Malayalam movies have been nominated to the Oscars till date?
Sir, I can recall two. There was a movie called Guru in 1990s by starring Mohanlal, and recently there was a movie called Jallikattu also, which was nominated for the Oscars.
Good. Siddharth, what characteristics do you possess that make you an ideal candidate for civil services?
Sir, I believe I'm very energetic and confident and optimistic about future, and I also believe that a civil servant, a future civil servant, should be confident and be ready to take any task that is given to him, and also basic values that are important for a civil servant.
Okay, suppose you are given the task to promote creative thinking in your district. How would you promote that?
So, can I take a few moments? So firstly, I believe to encourage creative thinking, probably we should try to reduce the barriers between different disciplines. So between the science disciplines and the humanities disciplines and the design disciplines. And secondly, I think we need to provide more platforms. For example, at a district level, at a school level, people only interact within the other students in the school or within people from the same district. I think the internet and the technologies provide a very important medium for which through which we can have more avenues for increasing creativity or providing avenues for creativity. And thirdly, by providing them with the latest information on the global trends, on the national happenings. So even those can be used for solving problems. So on the one hand, creative thinking can also be increased. On the other hand, we can also find innovative solutions for problems that are for the problems in the country.
Do we have any devices in our own culture that promote creative thinking?
So I think there is a tendency to see different disciplines in a siloed manner, And also there is a tendency in terms of the examination culture that we have, wherein the marks are valued more than the outcomes, wherein we restrict ourselves to attaining 95 or 99.
That's it. I'm asking, do we have any cultural devices that promote creative thinking? Some devices in Indian culture. Can you recall any of such devices?
Sir, I think Indian culture celebrates diversity, so it actually promotes creative thinking. However, we do have certain problems like gender issues, which hinders the creativity of a certain section of the society. In the same way, we have caste issues. So there are social issues which hinder the creativity of certain people. But as a culture, as Indian culture as a whole, I think promotes diversity and creativity.
Are you aware about the story of Mahabharata? Who is your favorite character in Mahabharata?
Sir, my favorite character is Bhishma, because I think he stood by whatever he promised, and I think that is important for an individual.
Do you think a civil servant should adopt that kind of thinking?
Sir, I think a civil servant should stand by whatever he upholds, whatever he says. It is important to uphold integrity, but at the same time, I think it is also important to be flexible, because at the end of the day, what matters more is the system. What matters more is the outcome. So it is important to be flexible, but at the same time also to uphold values.
Okay, so when I was going through your DAF, I got this feeling that you are too much into cricket, and it seems you love the game. You are a right-hand opening batsman, right arm off spin bowler, and you have also got an award with respect to all-round performance. Who is your favorite all-rounder?
Jack is callous. Yes, sir.
And any all-rounder from the 70s?
Sorry, sir, I'm not able to recall.
Okay.
Sir, Amarnath, but I haven't seen much of the game. Sir, the player who played in 1983 World Cup, he bowled Mohindaram. Yes, yes, sir.
So you like him?
Yes, sir, but I haven't watched much of the games that he
Okay.
played.
Okay. What kind of an all-rounder is more of utility in a T20 match? A bowling all-rounder or a batting all-rounder?
Sir, I think in a T20, a player like Jadeja is of vital importance. It is difficult to categorize him as a batting all-rounder or a bowling all-rounder. I think depending on the game, he transforms into a batting all-rounder or a bowling all-rounder. So I think I don't think we can differentiate into batting and bowling all-rounder. I think it is important to adapt as per the game.
Okay. You like design concept sketching and design thinking. Can you elaborate on this, Siddharth?
Yes, sir. So I had my graduation in architecture, and I still maintain contact with my friends. So I used to do some freelance work with my friends during my preparation. So I do a little bit of concept sketching for my friends. So what happens is that for every architecture project, we start with a concept. It could be something like a cultural motif, which is adapted in the site. From that, we derive the final plan and then later on develop into the working drawings. So I help my friends in a limited manner in the concept development stage, wherein it is interesting to make concepts out of different things.
Suppose hypothetically,
Yes.
not specifically speaking about architecture or architectural designing, highlight the concepts that provide the grand design of the universe. Highlight 4 such concepts around which this universe is designed.
So I think the firstly, I think balance is a great principle around which the whole universe actually exists, because there is a certain underlying balance between the different forms of energy, the different forms of life, and everything. Secondly, I think there is an underlying unity also between the different forms of existence, be it human existence or the existence of nature, different animals. So balance, unity, And thirdly, again, diversity is also a principle. So every time we evolve, there is more variation, there is more diversity. So in a way, it adds to the unity, and again, there is diversity also. So I think these three principles.
One more.
And somehow I think so there is patterns also. Like we find patterns in everything. Like in nature, we have the Fibonacci series, or there are different patterns in Indian culture, Indian motifs. So I think it is also a principle that underlies underlying the human mind, wherein we tend to find patterns out of everything.
Thank you, Siddharth.
So, Siddharth,
Yes, sir.
you just now said you use your knowledge of architecture when you discuss with your friends and help them out. Tell me, how can a degree in architecture help you in performance of your duties as a civil servant?
Yes, sir. So as a civil servant, I believe it is important to have to make difficult decisions and to arrive at decisions based on a clear process. So in architecture also, the emphasis is on the process, wherein we have different stakeholders. Like the site itself is a stakeholder, the user is a stakeholder, then we have the government, which is a stakeholder. So we have to take into consideration the requirements of the different stakeholders, and then we have to arrive at a solution which is unique and solves the problems. And in terms of translating it into civil service, I believe every situation, be it in any ministry or any area, I think the same process can be important. And secondly, I believe the basic some principles like creativity and bringing together different stakeholders into one table and then finding solutions can also be used.
You did your architecture in 2019, and this is your first attempt or third attempt? Third attempt.
I gave one attempt in the final year of my graduation. I couldn't.
Decide to actually become a civil servant. That is-
Sir, in the last semester of my graduation, so I was looking at different options to pursue, and I happened to discuss with certain civil servants from who were there in Kerala at that point of time, and I felt inspired, and I felt the diversity is also more, and the impact that one can create in the public sphere is also more. So I felt I should also pursue civil services.
Okay, Siddharth. What is the meaning of the name Siddharth?
Sir, I forgot the meaning.
God in Indian mythology, who is called as Siddharth
Buddha was known as.
in Hindu mythology.
Sir, in Hindu mythology, I'm not able to recall, sir.
Your date of birth is 9th of September 96. What is this day celebrated worldwide as?
Sir, again, I don't know. So I'll read about it.
Okay. When I say 9, does it strike a bell?
No, sir. Sorry, sir.
Do you play Sudoku? Have you heard of the name Sudoku? What is the Sudoku game?
So it is basically a game wherein we have 81 squares, if I'm not wrong, and we have to. So there are 9 squares of 3 into 3, and we have to complete the puzzle.
9th September is called as the World Sudoku Day also, incidentally. Okay. Tell me, Sri Lanka is in turmoil these days. Is it a political, economic, or a humanitarian crisis going on?
It is all three. So it because of certain political decisions, it became it became an economic and humanitarian disaster. So there were many reasons. Firstly, the decision to go organic and to ban chemical fertilizers at one go. It is possible that it resulted in food shortages. And secondly, the tourism was also hit. Tourism was hit because of multiple reasons. One was the Easter attack into 2019, and this was aggravated later by the COVID-19 pandemic. So I think the security aspects, which were possibly neglected due to the political factors, also created reason for economic outcomes. And thirdly, I believe the uh, various political decisions which alienated certain sections of the society also aggravated the relative impact of the economic disaster.
Any lessons for India from the Sri Lanka crisis?
So I think firstly, it is a foreign exchange crisis. So India is now pursuing a path of relative self independence. So I think we should pursue it in a sustainable manner, wherein we diversify our supply chains from different countries like China and Europe, and which India is actually actively pursuing. And secondly, I believe India should also put in more focus on the inflation part, because at present recently we found that the inflation touched above 6% uh, as per RBI reports, and it is of concern. And even today RBI report has flagged concerns, and it is possible that the interest rates might rise in the future. So I think the inflation and the diversifying supply chains are two lessons that are important for India.
Okay. You were a cricketer and you're very fond of cricket. You were also the captain of the cricket team in the school as well as college. You were a batsman as well as a bowler. Okay, good. Tell me what is the difference between a googly and a dusra?
So a dusra is bowled by an off spinner like Sakleen Mushtaq, wherein the ball turns the other way. So the ordinary off spinner ball would turn into a right-handed batsman, while the dusra will go away from a right-handed batsman. And the same for a leg spinner is a googly, wherein the ordinary leg spinner will go away from the right-hand batsman, while this will go into the right-hand batsman.
Good. In cricket, there were certain laws which were recently changed. Can you spell out three of the laws that were changed recently?
So I remember one particular law, which is that usually if a batsman gets out, caught behind, or caught, then if the other batsman passes the halfway, he takes the strike.
Behind, how do the batsmen change the position?
He hits it above, and the keeper catches it. By the time if the other batsman crosses the half line, there is no half line, but technically if he crosses the half point, then he gets the strike. But now that has been replaced. Now the
wicket keeper or any fielder?
any then if I'm not wrong, mankading rule has also been legal now. So batsman has to stay in the crease till the bowler has delivered the ball.
Change in the marketing aspect?
So I don't recall the exact change.
Was it unfair play earlier?
Sir, it was illegal.
No ball.
Sir, it was. Sir, I don't remember exactly.
Okay, and any other rule?
Sir, I don't recall.
What about the use of spit on the ball, saliva?
Sir, I think it was banned recently, but I'm still not sure.
It was banned.
Sir, in the last year.
Was it as part of the latest changes in law or earlier than that?
Sir, I'm not sure.
Okay. And can any other liquid be used for shining the ball?
Sir, I believe no.
Can sweat be used or no?
Sir, I'm not sure.
Thank you, Siddharth.
Yes. Siddharth, your place of birth is Ernakulam?
Yes.
What is the etymology of it?
Ernakulam. So I believe it comes from Erenad, which was one of the names for one of the princely states in the medieval time.
Okay. And which dynasty ruled in the medieval times?
Ernakulam was part of Cochin state, so it was ruled by Cochin state and partly by the Malabar Zamorans of Malabar also.
Recently, there was a movie from that era, which depicted that era. What was it? A Malayalam movie? Sir, I think
Kunyali Marakkar, there was a movie by Mohanlal called Kunyali Marakkar about the naval chieftains of Zamarin.
you studied in Chinmaya Vidyalaya. Any three values of Swami Chinmayanand which you also espouse?
So one thing that I've found interesting from his videos is his sheer quality of articulation. Even though he's a Gita and Mahabharata teacher, the way he expounds different values, the way he articulates different things is something to learn. And secondly, the emphasis that is laid on the nature, on the environment, that is something that was encouraged throughout the 12 years that I studied in the school. And thirdly, some values like compassion, values like being there. And there was, in fact, there were various pujas also, like Madhur Puja, Guru Puja, and we had different occasions for different. So those are also values that are already there, but I think
Public school?
it's a public schools. Yes.
Do you think that religious practices should be followed in public school?
So I think religious practices can be followed if it is within the constitutional and legal boundaries. However, I think it should not be forced.
It should be followed, but it should not be forced.
I think it can be followed, but it should not be forced.
Okay. Tell me some two monuments which you remember from Indo-Gothic architecture in India.
So there is a Portuguese mansion in Fort Cochin, which is a good example of Indo-Gothic architecture, and there is Bom Jesus Cathedral in Goa, which is also a good example of Indo-Gothic.
Any specific feature of Bom Jesus Cathedral?
So it had extruding pillars, which was supporting the external walls. So it had a particular name, but I don't recall the name.
Okay. In leadership segment, you have mentioned that you were part of socio-economic study group. You led that group.
Yes.
For rural settlement.
Yes.
What was it about? Tell me something.
So every semester we have a different project. We start with a residential project, and then we move on to apartment, and then so from the third year we used to do settlement level projects. So in that particular semester we had to choose a rural settlement, and we selected a Maturu village in Shimoga district in Karnataka. So it is important because it is the only Sanskrit speaking village in the country. And we had to collect data, socio-economic data. We were divided into groups, and our group collected data on the socio-economic parameters, and based on that, we had to arrive at a master plan for improvement of the Maturu village.
And what were your suggestions for improvement of that village? Any two suggestions prominent?
So one was that it had different communities, but then we found that there was the different communities were they inhabited different spaces of the village. So we felt we needed to enlighten or enliven the public spaces that are active in the village, so that we increase the social interaction and the bonding between the different communities. So we made a design for a square-like area which was parallel to the water body that was running through the area. And secondly, another important suggestion was on the fact that there are many buildings which were imparting education like technology and Sanskrit at the same time. So we designed a space finally which could combine the positive things of both traditional learning and technological learning. So the space should also reflect the quality of both traditional learning, which needed a more outdoor interaction like area, and technological space, which needed more technological like area for connection, area for electricity, power supplies.
So that village was a Sanskrit speaking village, as you mentioned.
Yes.
Tell me, is Sanskrit part of UPSC optional list?
No, sir. So I believe it is not part of it.
You're not sure about
I'm
it.
not sure.
If given a choice, out of rural industrial development and developing satellite cities around already developed urban area, and going for that cities or that area's industrial development, what will you choose?
Can you please repeat the first part?
Rural industrial development and satellite city based industrial development. What will you choose and why?
Sir, I'll prefer rural industrial development because I think that is what is important in the future. So if we take a long-term perspective, I think we should look at having more development in the rural areas because even now more than 60% of our population lives in the rural areas, and we should factor in the issues like migration, the quality of life for the migrants in the satellite town like areas. So I would probably, I would definitely choose the industrial development in the rural areas.
Okay, one last question from my side.
Yes.
You are part of postal services, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you think that Indian Post is the biggest loss-making entity Indian government has? Do you think that it is high time we abolish Indian Post?
So I think India Post has a lot of infrastructure, which is a great asset for the nation. And though commercially it is becoming unviable due to various reasons, because of underpricing, because of stagnancy in the postal sector, the stagnancy in the postal courier services, I think we should not like dissolve the postal sector as such, public postal sector. I believe the infrastructure can be used for other purposes. So already we have the India Post Payments Bank, and the India Post is also trying to diversify into banking, into international courier services. So I think the infrastructure that is there in the hinterlands can be used for better rural development.
Good. One more question, a supplementary. Uh, what have you learned from being a part of postal services that you can implement in police services?
So I've just joined 1 week back, so
Short period to learn anything.
I learned more about interacting with the peers, with the seniors. But yes, sir.
We have done graduation in architecture. I am tourist. Have you visited Delhi?
Yes.
Give me some 4 to 5 monuments I should visit to understand different kind of architecture in Delhi.
So can I take 2 minutes? Yes, sir. So there is a lot of diversity in Delhi, and I have to admit that my understanding of the different monuments is also limited because I've only visited certain places. But within my understanding, I believe you should visit the Taj Mahal, which is a great example of architecture.
It is in NCR.
Sir, I believe it is.
You sure?
No, sir.
What is the distance between the Delhi and Agra?
Sir, I don't.
Have you ever seen the Prime Minister's message either on Republic Day or Independence Day?
No, sir.
No, you have not seen.
I haven't seen.
So you are not aware the Prime Minister is addressing the nation
Yes, sir.
on 5th.
Yes, sir. I'm aware, but I've only seen the highlights in a little part.
You have seen so many movies Have you seen in movies about the Delhi? Any movie?
Um, Sir, I've seen movies where
The South Indian movies.
yes,
The South Indian movies, one monument is very much famous in Hyderabad. It's mostly visible in most of the movies, which is
Charminar.
in Delhi. Tell me.
So the India Gate is probably similar to Charminar.
Yeah,
So the India Gate and the whole the Central Vista area whole thing is similar to.
did you travel through metro?
Yes.
Which line?
So I've traveled through the blue line, the yellow line, and presently I traveled through the purple line.
Where you came to here?
Yes, sir. Purple line, and then I switched to yellow line, and then to blue line.
Yellow line. Which is the sectors are in the yellow line?
Sir, from Central Secretariat to Rajiv Chowk. Yes, sir.
Other destination in between. What is the end destination of the yellow line?
Sir, I don't recall. Sir, I saw the Qutub Minar in one particular line, but I don't remember which line.
Architecture no, is not important.
It is important.
What is importance of architecture?
So architecturally, one is the influence of certain elements. So I believe the Qutub Minar was built on a pre-existing monument. So there are certain elements that are still visible, and secondly, the tower itself has certain beautiful architectural elements. There are five levels in the tower, and then the mosque also. Yes.
The most important thing about the Qutub Minar is mentioned most of in the books. Have you can you recall it? What is most important thing in Qutub Minar?
Sir, I'm not.
Iron or something like that.
Sir, but I'm not able to recall
Point of view, no?
something, but I'm not able to recall.
You said about the Rajiv Chowk metro station. So what is surrounding area in the Rajiv Chowk? What is its name is called?
So there is Pragati Maidan in.
From sea cannot place. Have you visited cannot place?
Yes.
Is it, can you consider it one of the architecture building or something like that or no?
So the colonnade is a beautiful architectural element. I found it like I related it to the colonnades that are present in Bombay, in certain areas in Bombay. So it is.
Something.
Where, sir?
Mughal era, British era, or pre-Mughal era.
So the Connaught Place colonnade. Sir, I don't know.
Have you seen the South Block and North Block Parliament building?
Parliament building. I've seen photos, but I've not visited directly.
Red Fort. Have you read about the Red Fort?
A little, yes, sir.
What is the peculiarity about Red Fort?
So the red sandstone that is used, and I'm not able to recall.
Now tell me the one or two monuments in Kerala, which is beautiful architecture.
Yes, sir. So the Padmanabhaswamy temple in Trivandrum is a good example of the Dravidian influence in Kerala architecture. So the normal temples that we see in Kerala have sloping roofs and Kerala style architecture and Kerala style elements. However, the Padmanabhaswamy temple, which is situated in the south end of Kerala, has more influence of Dravidian and Tamil influence of architecture. And secondly, another good example of architecture in Kerala is Fort Kochi itself, because the settlement pattern of Fort Cochin is such diverse that we have different areas for different communities, and then we have public spaces which are like the parade ground, or there is another Veli ground, So these are like public spaces that connect the different communities. So there is a Konkani speaking community, there is a Gujarati community, there is even an Israeli community in Fort Kochi. So the settlement pattern itself is a beautiful example of architecture in Fort Kochi.
I think that is one of your subject and anthropology often. You consider the about different set of different kind of houses. And what is the reason behind it? If you learn anything in India, all over India, you can pick up anything. Okay, in this state the house is such kind of pattern. The reason is like that, stuff like that.
So one is there are many mud houses. Now there is in fact a revival of mud houses. There is an NGO called Mitti which makes houses out of mud, but then they last only for 20 to 30 years, but then they make it again. So they have a particular feature of having breathing walls because it is generally seen in the hotter areas like Rajasthan in North India where the temperatures are high, and the material, the sand material, it has a peculiar quality of having more exchange of air, which reduces the temperature in warm times and increases the temperature in the cold times. Another would be the architecture of Kerala, so which has sloping roofs. It has an angle of about 30 to 45 degree because the rain arrives at that particular angle. And then it is also constructed, it has a high plinth, or the platform wherein we enter. It is slightly elevated because the ground is damp. So the architect, and another good example would be the agraram type of houses in Tamil Nadu, wherein they have a common wall. The front, backside, the three sides would be different, but then they'll still share one wall. So the advantage of that is that again the heat would be reduced because the contact with the external area is reduced. And secondly, generally the west of the southern side is common because that is where the heat is more in tropics. So that is where they have a common wall. So these are like good examples where the houses are a response to the environment.
Do you like spicy food?
Yes, sir. So I think it is part of Kerala culture and Indian culture also. So I am habituated to certain spices.
Say for example, if you born in Europe, still you will like spicy food.
So I'm not really sure if I'll still like spicy food, but I think the food there is, in my limited understanding, I believe it is a little bland. So probably spices might help to increase the taste.
Okay, if you would like to promote tourism, obviously Kerala is one of the destination. But you would like to target the medical tourism. Tell me what will you do to promote the medical tourism? Which sector? Medical tourism, there are many sectors. Not about allopathic, there are other than allopathic.
So Ayurveda tourism is a very good area of potential for Kerala and India also. It already has some base in Kerala because the Kerala has many ancient families which are associated with Ayurveda. So recently, PK Warrior had PK Warrior of Cortical Arya Vaidishala. He died last year. So the Cortical Arya Vaidishala or the Cochin Arya Vaidishala. So they are like good examples which can be promoted. So the potential of Ayurveda medical tourism is high in Kerala. This can be combined with the environmental tourism in Kerala, like the places like Alapi.
One of the parties that's not my question. My question is medical tourism. Okay, so let's agree on that. We would like to promote the Ayurveda tourism in Kerala. What is the further action we will do? Now it's clear. We will promote. What we will do?
Firstly, I think we need to have more studies and concrete data on the effectiveness of various Ayurveda treatments. So the fact that there is less data, there is less scientific data, is one hindrance. And secondly, I think we need to bridge the gap between the different disciplines also, like Ayurveda and allopathy, Ayurveda and different other natural sciences. And thirdly, I think we need more platforms wherein.
How the Kerala government promote the tourism?
So the
What is the slogan?
God's own country is one of the slogans.
The one slogan for Ayurveda.
So can I take a minute? So brighten your life with Ayurveda. I'm not able to come up with it.
People believe that the Ayurvedic treatments is not helpful in the emergency condition. Now you would like people believe that Ayurvedic treatments are not helpful for the emergency conditions. However, the certain kind of sections also believe that they are helpful in the certain kind of long-term disease. It's your duty to change the people's attitude. How will you change? What are the three components you will use to change the people's behavior? Attitude?
So one is like having more studies. Second is having more interaction between the different people in the industry and the consumer. And
What
third,
are the components of attitude? Of attitude, which we, if we can target, then we can change the people's attitude. Cognitive. We read about the cognitive. Yes. Cognitive other two. Target people's behavior. Yes. So
cognitively, I think if we can have more measurable data, more tangible data, probably we can influence people. And behaviorally, I think it depends on precedent. So if we can demonstrate good examples, and if we can.
a recent example told by Prime Minister in Man Ki Baat.
No, sir.
About Kerala Ayurveda treatment. Okay, tell me.
Uh, and using the emotion part, I think once people go to the Ayurvedic resort or for any Ayurvedic treatment, Ayurveda is more like a lifestyle enhancement method wherein you actually feel better after certain treatments. So I think we need to have more camps wherein people go there for any long-term illnesses or to improve their general well-being. So rather than promoting it for short-term emergency situations, I think we need to promote Ayurveda at a very early stage in life because it should be part of the lifestyle. So that can affect the emotions of people and thereby affect their decision to choose Ayurveda.
Siddharth, just a couple of questions before we end this interaction. You talked about Sri Padmanabha Swami Temple. Are you aware this temple was recently in news for something?
Amount of gold that is there, and some chambers have not been opened even now.
The idea of opening the chambers of Sri Padmanabha Swami Temple and taking that gold out?
Actually, I support the idea of using that gold for public welfare, but I think there should be a foolproof mechanism where there is a system in place on how we use the amount or the gold, and who are the stakeholders involved. What is the procedure that should be followed? So once the system is in place, I think it should be used for public welfare.
Okay. One last question. You speak Malayalam, right?
Yes.
So give a message to your fellow countrymen in Malayalam and then translate it for the benefit of all.
Sir, any
In Malayalam, right? Short message and then translate it for the benefit of all.
so can I take 2 seconds? നമ്മളെല്ലാം ഒന്നാണ്, നമ്മളെപ്പോഴും ബാക്കിയുള്ളവർക്ക് വേണ്ടിയും ഉണ്ടാവണം. We all are one in spite of the diversity. We should be there for others also when there is a need.
Thank you, Siddharth. Your interview is over. We will reconnect with you in some time for your feedback.
Thanks.
Let me highlight the good things first. Your communication skills are very good, dear. You articulate your arguments very well. You present them very nicely. You organize your thoughts properly. For some of the questions you have given, very good answers. But this is a critical analysis, right? And let us talk more about those areas where you need improvement. So I'll first start with the appearance. I'm not happy with the appearance today that you're sporting because it is giving a very informal touch to your overall presence here in this room. You have not shaved, have you? No, you haven't. So please mind that. Then the watch that you're wearing, you must avoid it because it's anyhow not allowed, right? The socks are not in tune. They are white colored socks and you should go for a dark color sock, right? And I would also suggest that if it's possible, go for a laced shoe rather than this kind of a fancy shoe because it lessens the formal touch, right? Now let me talk about those answers where you could have done better. First question regarding your own name. See, Siddharth, this is not a test of your knowledge. This is a test of your personality. Most of the questions are going to emanate from the DAP. The information that you have supplied. Suppose you falter on some questions which emanate from current affairs. Well, it will not be detrimental to your cause. But the board will not leave you if you fail to answer on things which are related to you. Because the things that are being tested here is how much awareness do you hold? Are you a good listener? Can you resolve crisis? Are you a problem solver? Are you inquisitive in nature? Do you have balance of opinion? Are you politically, ideologically inclined towards one side? Do you invest thought before you commit an action? There are several aspects of your personality. What values do you hold? What virtues are there in your character? You get it? So these are the things which are being tested here. So when you took off the mask, you kept it in your hand and started playing with it after some time. You should keep it in your pocket, right? Very safely. Second, the eye contact. The eye contact was also not very proper. The right way of having the eye contact is when somebody asks you the question, look into that person's eyes, right? Wait for the question to finish and do not start your answer immediately. Do not shoot your answer because there could be a supplementary question or an explanation of the question which has been already asked, right? It will further assist you in answering. Then you start answering, and while you think, please lower your gaze like this and do not look all around the room. It gives an impression as if you are anxious or you're confused, right? This is a good gesture which gives an impression you are articulating your thoughts at that moment. When you will speak, when you will answer, then look at the person who has asked you the question. Primarily, you should look towards that person, and meanwhile, you should pass some soft glances to other members of the board as well. Otherwise, they might feel offended, right? If it's a 35-40 minute odd affair and you've neglected a person for almost 20-25 minutes, he may award you very less marks. You never know, right? And this will bring down the overall average marking. Right? So keep that thing in mind, dear. Your knowledge about cricket needs to be polished, right? Sanskrit, is that an optional in the list of optional subjects? Well, it is all about awareness, an aspect of your personality. Check it. Yes, obviously it is. There are so many students who have qualified the examination with Sanskrit optional. So keep that thing in mind. You're a good communicator, by the way. And when you talked about Arnakulam, there was a question around Arnakulam. This is how you started responding. Arnakulam. There were too many oohs and ahs in between. And that was because you were thinking while you were speaking. Do not do that, right? Suppose you're making a public appearance on behalf of Government of India. You're doing a press conference. You're doing oohs and ahs. People will not like it, right? It will not present a very good picture of Government of India. So you have to take hold of that. Monuments in Delhi. You were not listening to the question properly. Started talking about Taj Mahal, and it is in Agra. And said that, is Agra a part of NCR? You said, sir, I think so. Then you said, I am not sure. Think of an officer who first commits and then says, I'm not sure. Do you get it? So if you're not sure, do not do that. Or if you are not remembering any of the monuments, you can say, sir, right now I'm failing to remember any of the monuments, but I will surely try it one more time. If you give me a few more seconds, I'll definitely try it one more time to remember. The Red Fort, these are all mentioned in the NCRT text, right? And you have prepared for the examination. So this is all about it. Do not start taking time without asking for permission. In several questions, you started thinking. You went on a thinking tour and you never returned, right? And in between, you remembered that I must also ask for permission. You said, can I have few moments? Never say, can I have 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 seconds, 5 seconds? Do not quantify. Say few moments. Right? And there was inordinate delay. Too much of delay. When there is so much of delay, Siddharth, what happens is people lose their interest in what you are saying, or they are looking for new questions, right? So the moment you become not so interesting, your chances dwindle automatically. So keep that thing in mind. Be very quick. But in some instances, you also did not invest any thought. Like one question was asked to you that, have you heard about the message of Prime Minister on Republic Day, Independence Day? You shot it. No, I have never heard.
That I actually didn't understand it properly. Yes, sir.
You were not listening to the question, dear. So never do that. It showcases as if anybody could take the impression that you are the Prime Minister is not in good books, at least for you, right? And that is terrible because you are wanting to be a part of the system, right? So you must invest some thought, and you must say that I have heard, but I am unable to recollect anything. The aim behind that thing was not Prime Minister's message, but Red Fort, because the question was in and around the architectural things, right? These are the areas, I think, so that where you need to improve, right? That's my feedback. Other honorable members will add their own. So,
Siddharth, you have very expressive eyes. Let me tell you, your eyes spoke a lot about you. When you entered, you looked so apprehensive. Later on, you became confident. Subsequently, again, you lost your confidence. And again, you gained your confidence. I was surprised. Overall, your whole performance, if I was to call it in one word, I would call it casual. It gave an impression of, as if you were being very casual. Your communication skills are so good, your knowledge is good, but then, that casualness that you showed, it actually mellowed everything down. What we just talked about, your hair, your beard, your shoes, your socks, your tie, it's so long. It should not be so long. Your flap, the lower flap is visible. Do you intend wearing the same dress for the interview?
No.
I would have wished you would have dressed in the same dress as you would have gone for the final day, because you would have felt, how are you going to be feeling on that particular day. So that would have been much appropriate. So make sure that your combination is right. When you wear a shirt and a tie, remember one basic rule. There should be nothing in your pocket, shirt pocket. Not even a piece of paper. Right? I can see notes, I think, in your pocket. So it is only meant for, you can just call it as a decorative item, not for something to be placed inside. Right? Don't place anything in your pockets. I will only talk about those issues which have not been, your hand position, even right now if you look at it, see, look at your hand position. This is the way you were doing. This shows what? Casualness. You're not very firm-minded. Either you sit like this with your arms on your knees or on your armrest, or lock them together. but your mask should not be in your hand at all. But that gives a very clumsy feel. Because of that, you're doing all this, right? Then your feet position, your feet are pulled below your knees, behind your knees. They should be straight and don't sit so open-legged. Keep your legs a little more closer to the knees, a little closer, right? It gives a different impression altogether, right? Then your answers were very long. I think your answers and your thought process, thinking, were equally long. Okay, then one thing which I noticed was when you were sure of your answer, you seemed to be bold. Your voice had depth in it. But when you were not very sure of your answers, you were mumbling your way. It was very evident. So make sure that you maintain that, don't start mumbling. If you don't know, I think it's okay, probably to say you're not sure. But don't mumble your way because you are leaving it to the panelists to think whatever they want to think. In one place you said PK Arya, PK Acharya. Whenever you name anybody, it is better to address them honorably. Call them Mr. or Shri, or if you're addressing the Prime Minister, call them as Honorable Prime Minister. A suffix is always advisable in such cases. Then your knowledge of your name and date of birth left much to be desired. And one last thing, when you're sitting, now tell me, what is the difference between I sitting like this and I sitting like this? Sit straight, sit erect. If you sit erect, your shoulders will automatically go back. And if you pull your shoulders back, attempt to keep them back. The moment you keep your shoulders back, you show a feeling of confidence to the other person. So the moment you lack confidence, your shoulders will start drooping. Don't do that. Don't let the people know. As I have told you in the beginning, your eyes are very expressive. Your eyes are showing everything. So you will have a lot to do. And believe me, you are good material. Right? You are already in the services. You have the advantage that you go with it. You have that because you have a fallback plan. You already have something. Right? So make use of that. Don't be underconfident. Don't lack confidence at all. And go into it, go for the interview with the impression to enjoy the interview and do well. Not just to make a casual approach. Right? All the very best.
Siddharth, your language is very good. Your smile is good. Indian Post question was handled very well by you. And the rural industrial development question was also, the answer was satisfactory in that. But some improvements are required, Siddharth. You took very long pauses many a times. Even if you took permission priorly, but the pause was very, very, very long. It was as if you are not going to come back from that pause. So try to reduce that pause. You gave very long answers. I remember the answer on Sri Lanka. Why Sri Lanka is facing a crisis. You built a lot of background and you went on and on and on. Even at a point of time, I forgot the question. What was the actual question? And you are keep on answering it. You should speak your prominent points first. You should not build background around it. This is not a mains answer, right? So mains mein aap kya karte hain? You build the background first and then you start answering. But here you should not do that. If you are asked what are the causes, sir, political, this, social, this, economic, this. So be crisp in your answering. Then was apparent in your answers. Finger movement as highlighted by sir. I felt that you were slouching, drooping down. So that shows bit casualness or laziness on your part. And at many places you didn't listen to a question and started answering. I remember the question which sir asked you about Indian devices already we have in our culture which promote creative thinking or inquisitiveness. You could have answered like we have examples of Gita, Bhagavad Gita, where the questioning is there. Then we have Gargi and Yagnavalkya. Then we have Milinda Pano. A lot of cultural examples are there which promotes inquisitiveness. You could have said that. But you went on a different tangent. You started answering on the aspect what we lack or why we don't have creative thinking. What are the hindrances in that? That was not asked. The question was, what examples are there in an Indian culture, in Indian past, which promote creative thinking? So listen to question very carefully, Siddharth. Okay? So if you improve on all these areas, you can improve your marks easily by 25 to 30. Okay, you already have the services, but you want higher services, higher order services, right? That is why you are here. So don't take this too casually. Thank you.
Siddharth, most of the positive points are already been highlighted by my members. I would like to point out some things. See, my question was not so tough that you can either you think about it. I have asked simple questions. But the problem is what I believe within you that you complicated the question. Say, I'm not, I don't understand any basic knowledge about architecture. I'm the layman. You should treat me like a layman. Understand? When I asked the question about house, you did not bring any attention about Northeast house or another region house. See, the basic idea is that whether you are aware about different kind of culture, different kind of pattern. So in such case, you cannot answer 10 to 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So it's not a main question. It's a personality question asked is a personality test. So you should focus about the one element and then leave it. Say for example, in Kerala, the house are like this because there is no rain. In northern region like Jammu, Kashmir, Shimla, or because house like this because there is a snow. And you can say in the west particularly desert Rajasthan, house like this because of this reason. Simple. I'm not interested in technical details. You understand? You travel by metro. This is beautiful architecture. You know Delhi's earthquake zone. Earthquake zone. Maybe
Yes, sir.
one of the best building to prevent the earthquake. So many parts in India, they build the construction to prevent earthquakes, just like Kutch. So Ganga. See, these are the interesting things. You understand? I don't know about the angle and anything. Yeah. So your answer should be simple and to be understood by the layman. Then after you can simplify your answer. The better you simplify, the better someone can understand. Even though I have a degree of architecture, so say for example, and you and me are the architecture. What of the rest of the people? They are also listening. It's not a one-way communication. No? It's a group communication like that. So even the question is asked about technical aspect, it is not related to technical aspect. So keep in mind. Everyone should answer should be one line, two lines. So the supplementary question can be asked. If you speak, then that is the supplementary question. Nobody will stop you until unless they feel it. So based on your future, you are already in service. Will helpful for your. It will be helpful for you, and I think you will make it.
Siddharth, two instances where I liked your answer. One was the concepts around which universe is built. So it was a random question, but anyhow you handled it well. And then the last question, the message that you delivered in Malayalam. I like that message. Any specific questions that you want to ask before I disclose the marks?
So I am presently undergoing training in IPTAPS at Faridabad. So to what extent should I prepare about the service and about postal and telecom?
Because when is your interview scheduled?
May 23. 3.
3. So 23rd of May, so a long way to go from here, right? And by that time period, you will be 2 months into the training. So expect questions. Questions could be general, like what you have learned, what are you learning, how it will help you in other services, or they could be specific related to post, telecommunication, etc. Right? Or There could be a third kind of thing, which would be future-based kind of questions or prospective questions. What we should do to make it good. So what exists, how it will help, and what we can do. What are you learning? What changes it has brought to your thinking process? How you feel now? Do you understand that? Whether you get more confidence now in life, all these kind of things. So prepare that area very well. In fact, who knows that if there is someone in the board who also comes from more or less the same service or has spent some years in that service, who knows? Later on, like you, he also tried and became IAS officer or something like that. Then he may ask several questions. There could also be questions around the training of civil services in general, right? And be prepared for that foundation training. What are the components of foundation training? Are you aware? Do we need any improvements in that? You must be aware about all of that, right? Because you are willing to go into that. So, like suppose someone who is an aspirant of the Indian Army, he must know everything about the IMA, right? So you must know everything about Libasna. Anything else? Based on today's performance and factoring in all the loopholes, the board has awarded you 160. But if you work on these areas, as rightly highlighted, that you may easily add 25 marks more to this. And 180, anything beyond 180 is bonus. If you want to go into IAS, IPS, IFS, IRS, then 180 is bare minimum. You can think of. So last time, what went wrong?
So last time it went well.
In overall marks, why didn't you get the IAS or the IPS?
My mains mark GS about 352 I got in GS. The GS1 I struggled to complete. GS2 I got 95, GS3 82, GS3 was low, GS4 97. All were below. Yes sir. Yes sir.
This year you have done well.
I hope so.
So don't worry, work on these areas, obviously, and you will make it. All the best.
So remember one thing, Siddharth, here, all that has been told to you
Yes.
has been told with one purpose. And what is the purpose? To make sure that you get through, you achieve your goals, right? So it may sound very negative, but no, it is with a very, very positive intent. The intent is you should make it, right? So work on that and keep your smile. You have a lovely smile, right? So don't let the smile go off. And 25, definitely, there's no doubt about it that you will touch the magic figure.
We have 200 plus candidate.
Yes. But don't let that complacency come in. Yeah, I'm already in service. So, no, the feeling I got was you taking it little casual because I'm already in service. Don't let that get in. Pressure. Absolutely. Pressure. Yes, I have a goal in mind. I have to achieve that. That is the basic idea. Right? And whatever has been told to you is going to hold you in a lot of good stead. All the very best.
All the best.